The great hall of the Galactic Council was silent. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds sat in their seats, watching the center platform where Emperor Taesung of the Valorian Empire stood with his daughter beside him. Princess Yuna kept her back straight and her face calm. She had practiced this moment in front of mirrors for 3 days. She had told herself she would not shake. She had told herself she would not cry. She was a princess of the most powerful empire in the galaxy, and she would act like one. But inside, her heart was beating so fast she thought everyone could hear it. Her father's voice filled the hall through the amplifiers. The war between the Valorian Empire and the human colonies has lasted 50 years. It has taken millions of lives. It has destroyed worlds. Today, I offer peace. Yuna watched the faces in the crowd. Some looked hopeful. Many looked afraid. A few looked angry. My eldest daughter, Princess Yuna, will marry a human representative, her father continued. This union will bind our peoples together. This union will end the war. The silence broke into whispers. The whispers grew into shouts. Yuna heard words like impossible and madness and forbidden. Humans were on the forbidden species registry. Everyone knew this. Children learned it in school. Humans were banned from most civilized space. They were not allowed on major trade routes. They were not permitted in the council chamber. The only other species on that registry were extinct, destroyed long ago for crimes against the galaxy. But no one talked about why humans were on that list. The records were sealed. When Yuna had asked her tutors as a child, they had simply said, "Some questions are better left unasked, princess." Now she was about to marry one of these forbidden creatures. The council speaker, an old being with gray skin and 6 eyes, stood up. Emperor Taesung, you cannot be serious. Humans are restricted for good reason. Bringing one here, giving one access to imperial bloodlines, this is dangerous beyond measure. The war is more dangerous, her father replied. We have lost 18 colony worlds. Our military is exhausted. The humans will not stop fighting. They never stop fighting. If we do not make peace now, we may not survive to make peace later. Yuna noticed how her father said that. The humans will not stop fighting. There was something in his voice that sounded almost like fear. The great doors at the far end of the hall opened. Guards in silver armor escorted a single figure toward the center platform. Yuna got her first look at her future husband. He was ordinary. That was the word that came to her mind. He was shorter than any Valorian male. Valorians were tall, often reaching 7 feet, while this human was barely 6 feet. He had no claws on his fingers, no protective scales on his skin, no visible weapons built into his body. His hair was black and cut short. His eyes were brown and calm. He wore a simple dark uniform with no decorations except a small silver pin on his chest. He walked steadily, neither fast nor slow, looking straight ahead. The guards kept their distance from him as if he might explode at any moment. His name, Yuna had been told, was Dowan. He was a former military captain who had become a diplomat. Earth's government had chosen him for this marriage because he was calm, intelligent, and this part confused her. Acceptable losses. She did not understand what that meant. How could a groom be acceptable losses? Dowan reached the platform and bowed to the emperor. It was a proper bow, neither too deep nor too shallow. Someone had taught him Valorian customs. Emperor Taesung, he said. His voice was quiet but clear. I am honored to represent humanity in this union. I hope this marriage will bring peace to both our peoples. Her father nodded. And this is my daughter, Princess Yuna. She will be your wife. Dowan turned to look at her for the first time. Yuna forced herself to meet his eyes. She expected to see coldness, calculation, maybe even hatred hidden behind a polite mask. What she saw instead surprised her. He looked sad, not angry, not threatening, Just deeply, quietly sad. Princess, he said, and bowed to her as well. I know this is not the future you wanted. I will do my best to make this easier for you. Yuna did not know what to say. She had prepared speeches about duty and honor and sacrifice. She had not prepared for kindness. The wedding will take place in one lunar cycle, her father announced to the council. Until then, the ceasefire will hold. After the marriage, we will negotiate a permanent peace treaty. The council members continued to argue among themselves, but it was clear the decision was made. The emperor had spoken. The human had been brought. The marriage would happen. Yuna stood on that platform for another hour, as politics swirled around her. She answered questions when asked. She smiled when expected. She played her role perfectly, but the whole time, she kept thinking about the look in Dowan's eyes. That sadness. That acceptance. What had humans done to be banned from the galaxy? What were they capable of that frightened entire civilizations? This man looked like he could barely hurt a small animal. The guards could have broken him in half with one hand. Later that night, alone in her chambers, Yuna accessed the classified files on humanity. Most were blocked, even from her imperial clearance. But she found one small note in an old military report. It said, "Do not underestimate humans, based on physical appearance. Their danger is not in what they are. It is in what they become when pushed." She read that sentence 5 times. Then she looked at the picture of Dowan in his file. The ordinary face, the calm eyes, the sad smile. She wondered what he would become if someone pushed him. She wondered if she would ever find out. In exactly 28 days, she would become the wife of a forbidden species. She would tie her bloodline to creatures that the galaxy had tried to forget. She would share her life with a man she did not know and did not understand, all to stop a war that had taken everything from both their peoples. Yuna closed the files and sat in the darkness of her room. Outside her window, stars burned in the endless black of space. Somewhere out there, human colonies floated in the void, waiting to see if this peace would hold. She was only 24 years old. She was not ready for this, but she was a princess of the Valorian Empire, and princesses did not have the luxury of being ready. They simply had to be strong. She would be strong. She would marry the human. She would stop the war. And maybe, if she was lucky, she would survive long enough to understand why everyone was so afraid. The wedding was over. The ceremonies were complete. The documents were signed. Yuna was now officially the wife of a human. They had been sent to live on Orbital Station 17, a neutral space station that floated between Valorian and human territory. The station was old and gray, built during a more peaceful time when species still believed they could share the stars. Now it served as a reminder of what was possible and what had been lost. Their quarters were simple. 2 bedrooms, a shared living area, a small kitchen. Nothing like the palace Yuna had grown up in. But she did not complain. She was here to do a job, not to be comfortable. What surprised her was how little Dowan demanded. She had expected a human husband to be aggressive. The stories said humans were violent, competitive, always pushing for more. She expected demands for access to imperial secrets, requests for political favors, maybe even attempts to control her movements. Instead, Dowan woke up early every morning and made breakfast. He asked her what foods she liked. He learned that she preferred her tea weak with honey, and he prepared it exactly that way without being asked again. He did not enter her bedroom. He did not ask personal questions. He spent his days reading, or helping the station workers with repairs, or sitting quietly by the observation window, watching the stars. It was strange. It was unsettling. Yuna did not know what to do with a husband who wanted nothing from her. Her handmaiden Unji had come with her from the palace. Unji was only 2 years older than Yuna, but she had served the royal family her whole life. She knew all the gossip, all the rumors, all the dark stories that circulated in the palace halls. You should not trust him. Princess, Unji said one evening while brushing Yuna's hair. I have heard things about humans. Terrible things. What things? Yuna asked. Unji lowered her voice. They say that during the Battle of the Red Nebula, human soldiers fought for 3 days without sleep. When their weapons ran out, they used their hands. When their hands were broken, they used their teeth. They say the Valorian commanders found human bodies still trying to crawl toward enemy lines, even after death. Yuna shivered. That sounds like a story made up to scare children. Maybe, Yunji said. But I also heard that humans once burned an entire star system to win a single battle. They destroyed the star itself. Billions of their own people died. And they called it a victory. Yuna thought about this. She thought about Dowan in the kitchen that morning, carefully cutting vegetables for soup, humming a soft song to himself. He does not seem like someone who would burn a star, she said. That is what makes them dangerous, Unji replied. They do not seem like anything at all. Until it is too late. The next day, Yuna decided to watch her husband more closely. She followed him when he left their quarters. She watched him go to the lower levels of the station where the workers lived. These were not important people, maintenance crews, cleaning staff, the invisible workers who kept the station running. Dowan spent 4 hours helping an old mechanic fix a broken water filtration system. The mechanic was Valorian, a man who had probably lost family in the war, but Dowan did not seem to notice the cold looks the man gave him. He just worked, asking questions, learning how the system functioned, passing tools when needed. When the repair was done, the old mechanic said nothing. He did not thank Dowan. He just walked away. Dowan watched him go with that same sad look in his eyes. Then he moved to the next broken thing and started working on that. Later, Yuna saw him in the station's small common area. A young Valorian girl, maybe 7 years old, was sitting alone in the corner. She was crying quietly, trying not to be noticed. Dowan walked over and sat on the floor near her. Not too close. Just close enough. Are you okay? He asked softly. The girl looked at him with fear in her eyes. She had probably been told all the same stories about humans. But she was also young, and sad, and alone. My parents are gone, she whispered. The war took them. Yuna expected Dowan to say something about how the war was over now, or how things would get better, or some other empty comfort. Instead, he just nodded. I lost people too, he said. It hurts. Does it stop hurting? The girl asked. No, Dowan said, honestly. But you learn to carry it. And sometimes, when you are carrying something heavy, other people help you. That makes it lighter. The girl did not say anything, but she stopped crying. She and Dowan sat together, in silence, for a long time, watching the stars through the station window. That night, Yuna went to her personal terminal and accessed more restricted files on human history. She had Imperial clearance for most things, but the files on humanity were heavily protected. She could only see fragments, pieces of a larger picture. One file talked about something called persistence hunting. In ancient times on Earth, humans did not have claws or fangs or speed, so they hunted by following their prey for hours, sometimes days, until the animal was too exhausted to run anymore. They simply did not stop. Another file mentioned human medical studies. Humans could recover from injuries that would kill other species. They could regrow tissue, fight off infections, survive extreme temperatures. Their bodies were not strong, but they were stubborn. A third file was a military analysis. It said, human soldiers do not surrender when defeat is obvious. They do not retreat when survival is impossible. They continue fighting long past the point of reason. This is not courage. This is something else. Something we do not have a word for. At the bottom of this file, someone had written a note. Recommendation: do not engage humans in prolonged conflict. They improve over time. We do not. Yuna sat back in her chair. She thought about Doan helping the mechanic who hated him, sitting with the child who feared him, making tea for a wife who had been forced to marry him. He was not aggressive. He was not violent. He was just persistent. He kept doing kind things even when no one wanted his kindness. He kept trying, even when everyone pushed him away. Maybe that was what made humans dangerous. Not their capacity for violence, but their refusal to give up. On anything. Ever. She walked to the shared living area. Do-Wan was sitting by the window, reading something on his tablet. "What are you reading?" she asked. He looked up, surprised that she was talking to him. "A history of Valorian art. Your people made beautiful things before the war. I wanted to understand them better." 2. Why? He considered the question. "Because you are my wife, and I would like to know you. If you will let me." Yuna sat down across from him. Outside the window, stars burned in the darkness. Ships passed in the distance, carrying soldiers and supplies for a war that might finally be ending. "Tell me about Earth," she said. Do-Wan smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. And for the first time since the wedding, Yuna thought that maybe this marriage would not be as terrible as she had feared. 6 weeks had passed since the wedding. Yuna was beginning to feel something she had not expected. She was beginning to feel safe. Do-Wan never raised his voice. He never made demands. When they disagreed about something, he listened to her side first, then explained his own thinking calmly. When she was frustrated or tired, he gave her space. When she wanted company, he was there. He was not the monster from the stories. He was just a man. A quiet, patient, somewhat sad man who made good tea and knew more about Valorian poetry than most Valorians. Yuna had started to look forward to their evening conversations. They would sit by the observation window and talk about their childhoods, their hopes, their fears. Do-Wan spoke about Earth, the blue oceans, the green forests, the cities that had been destroyed and rebuilt so many times that nobody remembered what they had looked like originally. "Humans are always building," he told her once. "We build things, and they fall down, and we build them again. It is what we do." "That sounds exhausting," Yuna said. "It is," Do-Wan admitted. "But we do not know how to stop." Tonight was special. The station was hosting a ceremonial dinner to celebrate the 2-month anniversary of the peace treaty. Ambassadors from 12 species would attend. Yuna was required to appear in formal dress, with Do-Wan at her side. She wore a silver gown that sparkled like starlight. Do-Wan wore a dark suit that made him look almost handsome. They entered the great hall together, and hundreds of eyes turned to watch them. Most of those eyes were not friendly. The peace treaty was unpopular with many Valorians. They had lost too much in the war. They wanted revenge, not marriage. Yuna could feel their hatred pressing against her like heat from a fire. She held Do-Wan's arm a little tighter. "They do not like us," Do-Wan said quietly. "They do not like you," Yuna corrected. "No," Do-Wan said. "They do not like us. You married me. In their eyes, you have betrayed them. We are both enemies now." Yuna wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. She had seen the messages on the public networks. Traitor princess. Human lover. Disgrace to the empire. Her own people had turned against her. The dinner proceeded awkwardly. Nobody wanted to sit near the human. The conversations around their table were forced and brief. Yuna made polite comments about the food and the decorations. But inside, she was counting the minutes until they could leave. Then the lights went out. For 3 seconds, the hall was completely dark. Yuna heard screams, the crash of dishes falling, the sound of chairs being pushed back. When the emergency lights came on, 3 soldiers in black armor were standing in the middle of the hall. They carried energy blades that glowed a deep red. Their faces were covered by masks. "Death to the treaty," one of them shouted. "Death to the human!" Everything happened very fast. Yuna saw the first soldier running toward their table. She saw the red blade swinging toward Do-won's head. She opened her mouth to scream, but Do-won was already moving. He pushed Yuna down and to the side, away from the blade. In the same motion, he stepped forward into the soldier's attack, too close for the blade to be effective. His hand shot out and grabbed the soldier's wrist. There was a twisting motion, a crack, and the soldier screamed. The blade fell from his broken hand. Do-won caught the blade before it hit the ground. He spun the unconscious soldier around and pressed the weapon to his throat, using the body as a shield. 2 seconds had passed. The second soldier fired an energy weapon. Do-won was already gone, moving sideways, pulling Yuna with him behind a stone pillar. The energy blast hit the wall where they had been standing, leaving a black scorch mark. "Stay here," Do-won said. His voice was calm. Completely calm. Like he was discussing the weather. He stepped out from behind the pillar. The second soldier fired again. Do-won dropped to the floor, rolled, came up running. The soldier tried to track him, but Do-won was too fast, zigzagging across the hall in a pattern that made him impossible to target. He reached the soldier in 4 seconds. The soldier swung the weapon like a club. Do-won ducked under it, stepped inside the swing, and delivered 3 precise strikes to the soldier's body: throat, knee, temple. The soldier collapsed without making a sound. The third soldier had circled around, trying to reach Yuna. She saw him coming. She was frozen, unable to move, unable to breathe. A red blade flew through the air and buried itself in the soldier's chest. Do-won had thrown it from across the hall. A perfect throw, 30 feet, while moving. The third soldier fell. 11 seconds. The whole thing had taken 11 seconds. The hall was silent. Everyone was staring at Do-won. He stood among the 3 fallen soldiers, breathing slightly harder than normal. His suit, torn at the shoulder. There was a small cut on his cheek, bleeding slowly. His expression had not changed. He looked exactly the same as he had when making breakfast that morning. Calm, patient, a little tired. He walked back to Yuna and offered her his hand. "Are you hurt?" She could not speak. She just shook her head. "I am sorry you had to see that," Do-won said. There was genuine regret in his voice. "I tried to end it quickly." Yuna found her voice. It came out as a whisper. "What are you?" Do-won looked at her for a long moment. His eyes were sad again, sadder than she had ever seen them. "I am human," he said simply. The station guards arrived then, too late to do anything useful. They secured the unconscious soldiers and checked the dead one. They asked questions that Do-won answered patiently. Yes. He had defended himself. No. He had not planned this. Yes. He was willing to give a full report. Yuna watched all of this like she was watching a dream. She had seen Valorian warriors train. She knew what skilled fighters looked like. This was something else. Do-won had moved like violence was as natural as breathing. He had killed a man with a thrown blade from 30 feet away, and then asked if she was hurt, as if the killing meant nothing. But it did mean something. She had seen his face when the blade struck. She had seen the brief flash of pain in his eyes. Not physical pain, he had not been hurt yet. Something else. Something deeper. He did not enjoy what he had done. He had simply done it because it needed to be done. Later, alone in her room, Yuna remembered the restricted files she had read, the notes about persistence, the warnings about underestimating humans. Now she understood. Humans were not dangerous because they were violent. Every species could be violent. Humans were dangerous because they could be kind and patient and gentle for weeks or months or years, and then, in 11 seconds, they could become something else entirely. They did not lose control. That was the terrifying part. Do-won had been in complete control the whole time. He had chosen to be kind. He had chosen to be violent. He could switch between them as easily as changing clothes. What else could he become if he chose to? What else were humans hiding behind their ordinary faces and sad eyes? Yuna lay awake all night, thinking about the man who had saved her life, her husband, the monster who made her tea. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Do-Wan moving through the ceremonial hall. The broken wrist, the thrown blade, the calm expression that never changed. She needed to know. She needed to understand. On the fourth night, she used her highest imperial clearance to access the sealed records on humanity. These files required special permission from the Emperor himself. But Yuna was still a princess. She still had some power. The files opened. She read for 12 hours straight. When she finally stopped, the sun was rising outside the station window. Her tea had gone cold hours ago. Her hands were shaking. Now she understood why humans were banned. The first major file was about something called the Harvest War. 300 years ago, human colonists had settled on a farming planet called New Eden. A neighboring empire decided they wanted the planet for themselves. They sent a professional military force, 50,000 soldiers with advanced weapons and warships. The colonists had no army. They had farming equipment, mining tools, and 17,000 civilians, including children and elderly. The war lasted 9 years. The colonists built weapons from farming machines. They dug tunnels under the fields. They set traps, ambushes, false signals. When the enemy destroyed their settlements, they moved underground. When the enemy poisoned their water, they learned to filter it. When the enemy burned their crops, they ate insects and roots. After 9 years, the invading army retreated. They had lost 32,000 soldiers. The colonists had lost 11,000 people, but the remaining 6,000 still controlled the planet. A military analyst had written, "The colonists should have surrendered in the first month. They had no chance of winning. They did not understand this. Or perhaps they did understand, and simply did not care." The second file was about the silence of Keth 4. A human research team, scientists, not soldiers, was studying a distant moon when enemy forces occupied the station. The occupiers expected the 12 researchers to surrender immediately. 6 months later, the occupation force of 200 soldiers was dead, every single one. The researchers had used psychological warfare. They had whispered through the ventilation systems. They had moved things in the night. They had left messages written in strange places. They had made the soldiers believe the station was haunted. When the soldiers' minds broke, when they started fighting each other, the researchers finished them with improvised weapons made from laboratory equipment. 12 scientists, 200 soldiers. The scientists won. One of the researchers, interviewed later, had said, "We did what we had to do. Humans always do." The third file was about the long walk. Human refugees were fleeing a destroyed colony. Their ships were shot down over a desert moon. The survivors, 800 people, many of them injured, had no vehicles, no supplies, no hope of rescue. The nearest settlement was an enemy military base, 600 miles away, across deadly desert. They walked for 6 months. They lost 400 people to heat, thirst, sandstorms, and attacks from local wildlife. But 400 people kept walking. They ate anything they could find. They drank water filtered through cloth. They carried each other when someone could not walk alone. When they reached the enemy base, they attacked it. 400, exhausted, starving, injured refugees against a defended military position. They took the base in 2 days. The file included images. Yuna saw human soldiers who had lost arms, still fighting. She saw humans who could barely stand, still moving forward. She saw eyes that held no fear, only determination. One captured enemy officer had said, "We killed them. We killed them over and over. But they would not fall down. They would not stop coming. It was like fighting the ocean. You cannot defeat the ocean." The final file was a summary report, written by a Valorian general after the first decade of the current war. It said, "Humans are not the strongest species in the galaxy. They are not the fastest. They are not the smartest. They do not have the best technology or the largest numbers, but they have something we do not understand. When a Valorian soldier knows he cannot win, he surrenders. This is logical. This is reasonable. This is survival. When a human soldier knows he cannot win, he fights harder. This is not logical. This is not reasonable. But it is terrifying. We have analyzed human psychology for decades. We believe the answer lies in their evolution. Humans developed on a death world, a planet that tried to kill them constantly. They survived not through strength, but through stubbornness. They simply refused to die. This refusal has become part of their souls. A human does not surrender, because surrender is not in their nature. A human does not accept defeat, because defeat is just a word to them. A human does not stop fighting, because fighting is all they know. My recommendation: do not fight humans in long wars. Every year the war continues. They get stronger. They learn. They adapt. They improve. We have been fighting them for 50 years. I am afraid we have already lost. Yuna sat back from her terminal. The words burned in her mind. I am afraid we have already lost. This was why humans were banned. Not because they were cruel, not because they were evil, but because they were impossible to defeat. You could kill a human army, and the survivors would rebuild. You could destroy their cities, and they would live in ruins. You could take everything from them, and they would make weapons from nothing. They did not stop. They never stopped. It was not courage, or bravery, or heroism. It was something deeper, something that the rest of the galaxy did not have. They simply did not know how to give up. Yuna thought about Do-Wan, the quiet man who made her tea, the patient man who sat with a grieving child, the kind man who helped repair water systems for people who hated him, the same man who had killed 3 soldiers in 11 seconds and apologized that she had to see it. He had told her once that humans kept building things even when they fell down. Now she understood what he meant. Humans kept building, kept fighting, kept living no matter what. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. It was why the galaxy had tried to forget they existed. Yuna closed the files. She walked to the shared living area. Do-Wan was asleep on the couch, a book on his chest. He had been waiting for her. She sat down beside him. He woke up immediately, but did not move. You read the files, he said. It was not a question. Yes. Now you understand. Yes. Do-Wan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Are you afraid of me now? Yuna thought about this. She thought about everything she had read. The endless wars. The impossible victories. The refusal to surrender. No, she said finally. I am afraid of what the galaxy did to make you this way. Do-Wan looked at her. His eyes were wet. That, he said softly, is the first kind thing anyone from another species has ever said to me. They sat together in the darkness, watching the stars. Yuna did not know what the future would bring. But she knew one thing now. Her husband was not a monster. He was something much more complicated. He was human. Yuna watched the news reports every day with growing fear. Incidents were happening along the border. Valorian supply ships attacked by unknown forces. Human colony stations damaged by accidents. Diplomats from both sides walking out of negotiations. Someone was sabotaging the peace. Someone powerful. Do-Wan spent long hours on communication channels with Earth, trying to hold things together. He looked more tired every day. The lines on his face grew deeper. He stopped making jokes at breakfast. It is not working, he told Yuna one night. Every time we solve one problem, 2 more appear. It is like fighting smoke. Who is doing this? Yuna asked. I have my suspicions. He looked at her with troubled eyes. But you will not like the answer. Before he could explain, Yuna received a summons. Her brother wanted to see her. Prince Hyuk was 5 years older than Yuna. He had been a decorated military commander before the peace treaty forced him to retire his fleet. He was handsome, charismatic, and popular with the Valorian people. He was also, Yuna was beginning to realize, very dangerous. She met him in a private room on the station. He dismissed her guards with a wave of his hand. Brother and sister stood alone. "You look tired, little sister," Hyuk said. His voice was smooth like oil. "Marriage to a human must be exhausting." "I am fine," Yuna said carefully. "Why did you want to see me?" Hyuk walked to the window and looked out at the stars. "I have been thinking about our father's decision. This treaty. This marriage. I have come to a conclusion." "What conclusion?" He turned to face her. His eyes were hard. "It was a mistake, and mistakes must be corrected." Yuna felt cold. "What do you mean? The humans cannot be allowed to survive, Yuna. Surely you understand this by now. You have lived with one. You have seen what they are. They are different from us. They do not think like us. They do not feel like us." "Doan is kind," Yuna said. "Yet." Hyuk's voice was sharp. "He has never hurt you yet. But it is in their nature. You have read the files, have you not? The wars they have fought. The things they have done. They are survivors, Yuna. They survive by destroying everything else. The war is over. The war is never over." Hyuk slammed his hand against the wall. "Not with humans. Do you think they will forget what we did to them? We burned their colonies. We killed their children. We hunted them across the galaxy for 50 years. He stepped closer to her. "Humans remember, little sister. It is one of their most dangerous traits. They carry their grudges for generations. For centuries. If we do not destroy them now, while they are weak and scattered, they will come for us. Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe not in 10 years. But they will come. And when they do, they will not stop until we are ash." Yuna stared at her brother. She saw fear in his eyes, genuine, deep fear. He was not being cruel for pleasure. He truly believed what he was saying. "You are the one sabotaging the treaty," she said quietly. Hyuk did not deny it. "I am doing what father should have done. What the council was too cowardly to do. I am protecting our people. I am prodded. I am protecting our people. By starting another war? By finishing this one." He grabbed her shoulders. "Listen to me. I have ships gathered at the border. In 3 days, we will launch a final attack on the human colonies. We will destroy their homeworld. We will scatter the survivors so far that they can never reunite. And then, finally, we will be safe. Father will never allow this. Father is old and tired. The council is corrupt and weak. They will complain, but they will not stop me. Not after I deliver victory." Hyuk released her. "I am telling you this because you are my sister. Because I love you. When the attack begins, I want you far away from that human. I want you safe." "And what about Doan?" Hyuk's expression hardened. "He is an acceptable loss. He always was. His own people knew it when they sent him. He was never meant to survive this marriage. He was meant to die and give humanity a reason to keep fighting or to surrender in despair when they saw how little his life meant to us." Yuna felt sick. "You are a monster. I am a prince. I am a protector. I am doing what must be done." He walked toward the door. "You have 3 days, little sister. Say goodbye to your pet." He left. Yuna stood alone in the room, her heart racing, her mind spinning. 3 days. Her brother was going to destroy the human colonies in 3 days. Millions would die. The peace would shatter. And Doan. She ran back to their quarters. Doan was waiting for her. He took one look at her face and knew something was wrong. "Tell me," he said. She told him everything. Her brother's plan. The ships at the border. The timeline. The target. Doan listened in silence. His face showed no emotion, but his hands were clenched tight. When she finished, he said, Your brother is not wrong. What? About humans remembering? About carrying grudges? Do-won's voice was heavy. He is right. We do remember. Every insult, every injustice, every life taken. We write it into our bones. He looked at her. If your brother destroys our colonies, kills our people, burns our homeworld, humans will never forget. We will rebuild somewhere else, in the darkness between stars, and we will remember. For 1,000 years. For 10,000 years. And one day, when your descendants have forgotten this war ever happened, we will return. And we will not stop until there is nothing left. Yuna felt tears on her cheeks. Then my brother is right. We have to destroy you to survive. No. Do-won took her hands. He is only half right. Humans remember pain, but we also remember kindness. We remember who helped us, who stood with us, who treated us like people instead of monsters. His eyes were fierce now, burning with something she had never seen before. I remember every cold look on this station, every whispered insult, every door that closed in my face. But I also remember you, Yuna. I remember you sitting with me in the darkness. I remember you asking about Earth. I remember you treating me like I mattered. He squeezed her hands. If we can show your people another way, if we can give them a reason to see us differently, then maybe the cycle can end. Maybe we do not have to be enemies forever. How? Yuna asked. My brother has ships. He has soldiers. He has power. What do we have? Do-won smiled. It was a sad smile, but there was strength in it. We have something better, he said. We have hope, and that is the most dangerous thing humans have ever invented. He released her hands and walked to the communication terminal. I need to contact Earth. I have an idea. It is probably crazy. It will probably fail. But it is the only chance we have. What are you going to do? Do-won looked back at her. Something very human, he said. I am going to be stubborn. Yuna gave Do-won everything he asked for. A fast ship, access to long-range communication channels, authorization codes that would let him bypass Valorian security systems. It was treason. If her father found out, she could be executed. But her brother was about to murder millions, and Do-won was the only one trying to stop him. What is your plan? She asked him as he prepared to broadcast. Watch, he said. He opened a channel to Earth and all the human colonies. His face appeared on screens across human space. Billions of people saw him, a single man, tired and worn, standing in a borrowed ship in enemy territory. My name is Do-won, he said. Many of you know me as the man who married the Valorian princess. Some of you think I am a traitor. Some of you think I abandoned humanity for comfort and safety. He paused. You are wrong. 3 days from now, the Valorian Empire will launch an attack on our colonies. They plan to destroy our homeworld. They plan to scatter us forever. They believe this is the only way to survive because they are afraid of us. They are right to be afraid. Do-won's voice grew stronger. We are humans. We survived a death world. We survived plagues and famines and ice ages. We survived nuclear wars and climate disasters. We crawled out of every grave the universe dug for us. The Valorians know what we are capable of. They have seen our wars. They have studied our history. They know that if they hurt us, we will never forgive. We will never forget. We will hunt them across generations until we have our revenge. They fear us because we endure, because we persist, because we never, ever stop. He leaned forward. But they do not know everything about us. Yes, we remember our enemies. But we also remember our friends. We remember every act of kindness, every hand extended in peace, every person who saw us as more than monsters. The Valorians do not understand this. They think we are only good at destruction. They have never seen what we can build when we choose to. So I am asking you, all of you, to show them. Do not prepare for war. Prepare for mercy. Send ships to the border. Not warships, cargo vessels, medical frigates, engineering crews. Bring food, medicine, and technology. Bring everything we have to give. When the Valorian fleet arrives, expecting a battle, they will find something else. They will find us helping their people, feeding their hungry, healing their sick, rebuilding what 50 years of war destroyed. This is my plan. This is the human way. Not victory through violence, but victory through kindness. Not conquest, but community. They banned us from the galaxy because they feared what we could destroy. Let us show them what we can create. This is Dowan, and I am asking humanity to prove that we are more than our worst moments. The broadcast ended. Yuna stared at him. That is your plan? You are asking humans to respond to an attack with kindness? Yes. That is insane. Dowan smiled tiredly. I know. But humans are good at insane things. For 2 days, nothing happened. Yuna watched the human communication channels, waiting, hoping. She saw arguments. She saw anger. She saw people calling Dowan a fool, a coward, a traitor. Then, on the 3rd day, the first human ship appeared at the border. It was a cargo vessel, old and battered, carrying 300 tons of food supplies. Behind it came another ship. Then another. Then dozens. Then hundreds. Medical frigates arrived from distant colonies. Engineering ships that had been repairing space stations changed course. Passenger vessels filled with volunteers, doctors, teachers, builders, streamed toward Valorian space. It was not an army. It was something else entirely. Yuna watched the sensor readings in disbelief. There are over 1,000 ships. Humans are stubborn, Dowan said. He was crying, she realized. Tears were running down his cheeks. We are very, very stubborn. Prince Hyuk's fleet arrived at the border expecting a desperate human defense force. Instead, they found human ships delivering supplies to struggling Valorian border worlds. They found human doctors treating patients in understaffed hospitals. They found human engineers repairing damaged infrastructure that the Empire had neglected during the war. The Valorian soldiers did not know what to do. They had trained to fight enemies. They had not trained to shoot people who were feeding their families. Reports flooded the communications networks. Images spread across the galaxy, humans helping Valorians, former enemies working side by side. Children who had grown up hearing horror stories about humans now receiving medicine and education from human volunteers. One Valorian soldier, interviewed on a news channel, said, I was ready to die today. I expected them to fight like animals. Instead, they gave us food. They asked if our children were okay. I do not understand. Why would they do this? The reporter had no answer. Hyuk ordered his fleet to attack anyway, to destroy the human ships, to kill everyone. His commanders refused. I will not fire on people who are helping my family, one captain said publicly. Court-martial me if you want. I am done fighting. More commanders joined him. Then more. Then entire squadrons. The fleet that was supposed to destroy humanity instead stood down, ship by ship, refusing to obey. Hyuk was arrested by his own officers 3 days later. Yuna watched it all from the station, standing beside Dowan. He had not slept in almost a week. His eyes were red, and his hands shook constantly. He had spent every hour coordinating the humanitarian effort, solving problems, talking to frightened volunteers, keeping the whole impossible operation running through pure willpower. You did it, she said. Dowan shook his head. I did not do anything. Humanity did this. I just reminded them who they could be. The Galactic Council held an emergency session. They watched the footage of humans helping Valorians. They saw the reports, the testimonials, the images of former enemies embracing. One council member said, perhaps we were wrong about humans. Another said, perhaps we should not have banned them. A third said, perhaps they should be allowed back. The motion passed. For the first time in 300 years, humans were no longer on the Forbidden Species Registry. A new peace treaty was signed, a real one this time, built on something stronger than fear. Dowan finally collapsed from exhaustion. Yuna sat beside his bed for 3 days while he slept, watching over him like he had watched over her. When he woke up, the first thing he said was, "Did it work?" "Yes," Yuna said. "It worked." He smiled. It was a real smile this time, not sad at all. "Good," he said. "That is good." Then he went back to sleep. Yuna held his hand and watched the stars outside the window. Somewhere, out there, humans and Valorians were working together for the first time in 50 years. The galaxy would never be the same, neither would she. The galaxy had changed in ways nobody could have predicted. Humans were everywhere now, not as conquerors or refugees, but as partners. Human engineers helped build new space stations. Human doctors developed medicines that worked across species. Human artists created works that moved beings who had never known Earth. The Valorian Empire and the human colonies had merged into something new. Not one government, but two peoples who had learned to trust each other. Trade flourished. Culture blended. Children grew up speaking both languages. Yuna was no longer a princess. She was a mother. Her daughter Salman was 12 years old. She had her father's dark eyes and her mother's silver hair. She was curious about everything, always asking questions, always wanting to understand. Tonight, the family was gathered in their home on New Valoria, a planet that had been founded together by both species. Outside the window, twin moons rose over fields where Valorian farmers worked alongside human agricultural specialists. Soman sat on the floor, looking through old photographs on a data tablet. She had found pictures from before she was born. Pictures of the war, pictures of the peace, pictures of her parents' wedding. "Mother," she said, "can I ask you something?" Yuna looked up from her reading. "Of course. In school, we learned about the Forbidden Species Registry. The teacher said humans used to be on it. She said they were banned from the galaxy for a very long time." Salman looked confused. "But father is human. And he is the kindest person I know. Why would anyone ban humans?" 10. Yuna put down her book. This was a question she had known would come, eventually. She had thought about how to answer it for years. "Come here," she said. Salman came and sat beside her. Yuna took her hand. "A long time ago," Yuna began. "Before you were born, before your father and I met, the galaxy was very different. Many species feared humans. They called them dangerous. They said humans were violent, unpredictable, impossible to control." "But why?" Salman asked. "Humans do not seem dangerous to me, because the galaxy did not understand them." Yuna thought about how to explain. When the galaxy looked at humans, they saw a species that could survive anything. Radiation, vacuum, extreme temperatures. Humans did not have claws or scales or natural weapons. They were not the strongest or the fastest, but they simply kept going. No matter what happened, humans refused to give up. "That does not sound bad," Salman said. "It was not bad, but it was frightening." Yuna looked out the window at the moons. "You see, most species understand limits. When something is impossible, they stop trying. When a battle is lost, they surrender. When a situation is hopeless, they accept it. Humans do not do this. When humans face something impossible, they try anyway. When they lose a battle, they come back tomorrow. When everything is hopeless, they keep fighting." The galaxy did not know how to deal with this. How do you negotiate with someone who never gives up? How do you threaten someone who treats death as an inconvenience? How do you defeat someone who does not know they are defeated? Salman nodded slowly. "So they banned humans because they were afraid?" "Yes. Because they did not understand that the same stubbornness that made humans frightening also made them kind. Yuna squeezed her daughter's hand. Your father taught me this. Humans do not just refuse to give up on wars. They refuse to give up on people. They refuse to give up on hope. They carry their grudges for generations, but they also carry their love. A human who becomes your enemy will never stop fighting you. But a human who becomes your friend will never abandon you. That is the part the galaxy did not see. They saw the wars. They did not see the other side. Salmon looked at the photographs again. She found one of her father from years ago, tired, worn, standing on a ship, giving a speech. Is this when Father talked to all the humans? Yes. That is when he asked humanity to show the galaxy what they could be. Not destroyers, but builders. Not conquerors, but healers. Yuna smiled at the memory. I thought he was crazy. I thought it would never work. But it did work. Yes. Because humans listened. Because when someone reminded them who they could be, they chose kindness. They chose mercy. They chose to be more than their worst moments. The door opened. Dowan walked in. Older now. Gray at his temples. Still carrying the same calm expression he had worn the day Yuna first met him. He saw his wife and daughter sitting together, and smiled. What are you two talking about? Why humans were banned, Salmon said. Dowan came and sat with them. His joints were stiffer than they used to be. He made a small sound of effort as he lowered himself to the couch. Ah, that is a big question. Mother explained it, Salmon said. She said humans were banned because they never give up. That is true. Dowan looked at Yuna. But there is more to it. What more? Dowan thought for a moment. Humans are very good at adapting, at changing, at becoming whatever we need to be. When the universe is cruel, we become tough. When life is hard, we become stronger. This is how we survived our own planet. But adaptation works both ways. When people are kind to us, we become kind. When people trust us, we become trustworthy. When people give us a chance, we prove we deserve it. He put his arm around Yuna. Your mother gave me a chance. She saw past the stories and the fears. She treated me like a person. And because of that, I became the person she needed me to be. That is what humans do. We become what the world asks us to become. If the galaxy treats us as monsters, we become monsters. If the galaxy treats us as partners, we become partners. The ban was not just about fear, Dowan said. It was about misunderstanding. The galaxy saw only one version of humanity. The version that survived wars and fought until the end. They did not see the version that builds families and creates art and falls in love. Somin looked between her parents. Is that why you married him? To stop the war? Yuna laughed softly. I married him to stop a war. Yes, but I stayed with him for different reasons. What reasons? Yuna looked at Dowan. 15 years of marriage. 15 years of learning what it meant to love someone who never gave up on anything, including her. I stayed because I finally understood why his kind should never have been banned in the first place, she said. Humans are not just the most persistent species in the galaxy. They are also the most loyal, the most hopeful, the most determined to build something better. They banned humans because they were afraid of what humans could destroy. But they should have been amazed by what humans could create. Somin smiled. She understood now, or at least she was beginning to. Outside the window, the twin moons had risen fully. Their lights spilled across the fields where two peoples worked together, building a future that neither could have imagined alone. Dowan stood up slowly. I am going to make tea. Anyone want some? I would like some, Salmon said. The usual for you? He looked at Yuna. Weak. With honey. He smiled. He walked to the kitchen, moving a little slower than he used to, his hair more gray than black now. But he was still the same man who had made her tea the morning after their wedding. Still the same man who had saved her life without hesitation and apologized for the violence. Still the same man who had asked an entire species to choose kindness and been stubborn enough to make it happen. Salmon watched him go. "Father is very human," she said. "Yes," Yuna agreed. "He is. I am glad I am half human." Yuna pulled her daughter close. "So am I, little one. So am I." Outside, the stars burned in the endless dark of space. Somewhere out there, ships carried travelers between worlds that had once been enemies. Schools taught children about the peace that had once seemed impossible. Museums displayed artifacts from a war that everyone was trying to forget. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had been given a second chance. And they had proven, once and for all, that the most persistent species in existence was also the most capable of love. That was why humans were banned. And that was why they should never have been.